Let's say the big blind folds. Are you going to call 5,000 here at the end?
I would have tanked, and yeah, especially against a specific player. Like I don't check that to let him bluff and like fold it. So yeah, definitely would have called.
But that didn't happen, right?
No, that didn't happen.
So what happened?
The big blind instead decides on a.
Playing this 1-2 game, what, your 3K effective, something like that?
I'm 6,500 deep.
6,500 deep. Okay.
60. I had 6,500 in stack, probably like 6K effective, something like that. And I pick up kings in +1. And I've seen like every time I opened, I wouldn't ever get 3-bet. And it would just be a bunch of calls multi-way. So I decided to open limp this one. Then player to my left, Wolfgang, raises to $20. And for the same reasons as to why I didn't want to raise, he gets 4 callers around and back onto me to close out the action. Obviously, we're not taking kings 6 ways, so I put in a limp 3-bet. Love that. But I sized to $150. So I didn't really know what the sizing was.
Let me ask you a quick question. How often do you limp? I mean, how often? I mean, this is old school, right? How often do you limp raise big pairs?
This might have been like less than 5 times in my entire life.
Oh, really?
Like the 3rd time ever.
You just thought it was like the right spot to do it in, basically.
I didn't want to open to like $40 to give my hand super away. So like I don't know, whichever way I was trying to like build a pot as well as I can, and so then like obviously like as expected, like 4 people call his. My buddy's $20 open or raise. So now onto me, it's like I don't even know what the correct sizing is because it's like such a different game. Usually I feel like the standard is like doubling whatever. My rule was like doubling whatever is on the table. So it was a $20 raise, 4 calls, so it'd be $100 in there. So doubling it would be like 200. But that just seems massive. I have no idea in this 1-2 game. So I didn't know. I got a lot of criticism about the limp 3-bet sizing, but I sized to $150.
Why? People thought that it should be larger than this?
People thought it should have been a lot bigger. Like 200
I mean, you're
plus.
trying to get like a sweet spot of like 2 callers, right? Like you don't want to go like 7 or 8,
cool.
you know, 6 or 7 ways. So what ended up happening?
So I make it 150. Wolfgang folds, who opened to 20, and then 3 of the 4 callers of the $20 call. So we end up going 4 ways to the flop.
So are you out of position with 2 people, sort of, or?
Yeah, I'm in 3rd to act, so 2nd to last in position.
Okay, so maybe like the cutoff calls or something like that, and then 2 people in the blinds or something.
Yep. Yeah, exactly what happened. I think it was big blind, small blind.
Okay.
Yeah, the blinds to call, and then you get myself and like the button, something like that.
So the pot's like 630, something like that, with kings ish.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Let's go to the flop.
So 4 ways, flop comes 8, 7, 6, 2 clubs. I have the thing. Flop comes 8 of spades, 7 of clubs, and 6 of clubs. So really not ideal for kings. And action checks to me.
Do you have a club in your hand, by the way?
I do have a club in my hand.
King of clubs, king of spades or something, or king of hearts?
King of clubs and the king of diamonds in my hand, yeah.
So this is interesting because this is a great little lesson in how boards, I think, differ from sort of theoretical play and live play. Obviously, this is not a great flop for kings, right? To the point where if you had just straight opened from under the gun +1 and even got 1 or 2 callers, you know, the theory goes this might even be like a check 100 type of spot. But I have always said, and I will continue to say, in loose V-pipping games, and this is especially like right up that groove, right? I mean, even if it wasn't a limp re-raise, people are playing so much wider than they're supposed to. There is a lot of value to be had on boards that traditionally wouldn't be thought to be c-bet because of, you know, especially this is even more extreme, right? Like you've limp re-raise, you're probably going to have aces, kings, queens, or ace, king. So the problem, if somebody could sort of is playing off the board and not their hand, is that they could put a lot of pressure on you, right, on this board because they know you're not going to really have 9, 10 all that much, right? And probably not 8, 7s, and 6s, but it just doesn't happen. So this is a really extreme scenario where I could possibly see you sometimes even checking here, but even on the boards against 2 people where it comes out like, you know, 7, 9, 10 in live play at the low stakes, I'm just betting off my overpairs. People can say it's unbalanced or not. Here it's probably close. I don't know. Did you consider? I assume it gets checked to you, right?
Yeah, action checks to me, and I go through all the options, and it's like you said, like in a normal game, I think you can definitely just check this, like especially multi-way. But like you said, everyone's playing way too wide, and I was debating on the sizing, and I didn't really know what to do. Like I wanted to get the showdown for the obvious reasons of it being 4 ways on a very connected board, and I have 1 pair. But also, I didn't want to like charge free cards, so I want to do a mix of like. In hindsight, it seems like it was a mix of showdown and value, but I bet tiny 1/3 spot to $200.
Okay.
And everyone calls. So you get 3 players to make the call of the $200 bet.
Wow. So now the pot's like 1430-ish, something like that. I mean, that is the theory. I mean, is that, you know, when you don't, you know, when you sort of have an equity advantage or you think you have the best hand, but you don't have that nut advantage that you're supposed to bet small. And again, I think what you can take advantage of in these spots where sometimes it's supposed to be a check, but you bet anyways in live poker is that people won't take a hand like 9-7 and just like go at you. You know what I mean? Like 9-7 suited, 9-7 a spade. 9-7 of spades, like, you know, a hand with like great amount of equity. But you'll get eaten alive, obviously, at high stakes. Not that you'd ever be in this situation at high stakes in a limp raise pot 4 ways, but okay. So
right.
it's 1400-ish. Okay.
Like 12 to 1400, something like that.
Yeah.
And so we still go 4 ways to the turn, which comes the 8 of hearts.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So pairs the top card.
Yeah. Top card is paired and action checks to me once again. And I'm just like, I don't even know what to do at this point. I feel like I'm kind of in the same situation as on the flop, but almost it was a mix of like loving it and hating it at the same time. So I was like really stuck on what to do. And because like obviously like eliminate some combinations of like 8x holdings.
Sure.
And I technically have the best 2 pair against 6-7. So kind of good, kind of bad. I threw out like another really small sizing in the same efforts as on the flop, trying to get the showdown, trying to charge like some value if I'm ever somehow ahead against 3 other people. But I bet really small to $350.
So you bet 350. So you're betting like 25-ish% of the pot. This is an interesting card because again, you know, you can't really quote unquote sim this because it's a limp raise pot and you multi-way. Traditionally, when the sort of the top card pairs, you know, the pre-flop raiser sort of checks. But when you really look at it, I mean, there's a couple things going on here. When we really look at it, no one really should have an 8 here that much. I think that theory holds true. Like if a Broadway card pairs, like if it came out, you know, King 7-6 and the turn was a king, or Queen 7-6 and the turn was a queen. And there are a lot of draws out there. With that being said, you are up against 3 hands. Nobody's supposed to be calling a limp re-raise anyways 3 ways. So trying to range some of these guys, you wouldn't think that anyone really has an 8, although you did sort of bet small. So there's a whole thing going on here where you can bet for protection and value. Again, it might be a little bit thin into 3 people because there's so many bad cards for you. And again, I would go back to somebody might be able to really eat you alive here if they raise, because it's just like, I mean, if you bet and then one guy calls and a guy in the blind check raises, like you're in a really, really shitty spot. And that's where the theory goes that like, you're not supposed to take a hand and bet fold it on the flop or on the turn for value, even though I do recommend, I actually think that's a lot of times the most profitable way to play these games. You're supposed to take those hands and check them. So this is a really interesting spot. I could kind of see it going either way. More often than not, someone's probably not going to have an 8 here. And if they're not going nuts, I guess I can see it as long as you contain your sizing, which is what you did. So you bet 350, okay?
350, we get the button or cutoff, whatever. The other guy that was in position, he makes the call and the big blind makes the call. So now we've gone from 4 ways to the turn, 3 ways to the river.
So it's like 2,500, something like that, right? On the river?
Yep. Yeah, I have 2470 on the river.
So you have King of Clubs, King of Clubs, King of Diamonds for the podcast. King of Clubs, King of Diamonds, 8 of Spades, 7 of Clubs, 6 of Clubs. On the flop, again, you limp re-raised and you got call, call, call. You bet small, call, call, call. Turns the 8 of Hearts, check, check. You bet 350, cutoff calls, big blind calls. One of the guys in the blinds fold. We'll say the big blind calls. And now everybody called on the flop, right? And now the pot's 2,500. Okay. Yeah,
we got to thin the field a little bit though to the river at least. But the river comes the deuce of spades, literally like the most irrelevant board.
Yeah.
A relevant card to ask for, which is always nice.
Yep.
And now big blind checks to me for a 3rd time. And now it's a decision of either just continuing with the same line of potentially just going for value, block betting, whatever it may be, or checking to the cutoff player who has been very prone to bluffing and he's been very spewy all session long, like playing ridiculous hands. So, I mean, if we both checked him, I thought maybe we can bluff it off. There's also obviously merit to betting again and just get some value from, I don't even know what can call 3 streets.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll give you my take on this exact situation. I mean, I think your bread and butter, right, in live poker is thin value betting. I get on board with a check here, and there's a couple of reasons. Like you said, it's really, really hard to get called here by 3 streets from a. I mean, once you've limp raised and bet 3 times, so I would really think that these guys' hands are sort of on the weaker side, especially if you haven't got raised off in terms of draws. And one of the things that I will note, though, is that this is different than if the board ran out. Let's say instead of the board running out 8, 7, 6, 8 deuce, let's say it ran out 8, 7, 6 deuce deuce, right? And all the draws brigged. Then I really would like bet. Because I think you could get called by like an 8x, maybe pocket 9s, pocket 10s. People just can't fold their hands, right? But this is definitely different where I don't know. It just seems so strong. And the other thing too is that if the board did run out 8, 7, 6, deuce, deuce, and you checked the river with like kings, I don't think the bluffing frequency of your opponent on a missed draw is going to be as high as it is in this situation. For some reason, when the board's sort of scary, or like maybe the top pairs at the end, here it paired on the turn, it sometimes will give your opponent the green light to bluff. So 8, 7, 6, deuce, deuce, I would hate a check here at the end because I don't think your opponent's going to be bluffing a draw, but in this case, very well might. So it's a combination of not getting called, and also I think with the run out, the propensity for someone in a bluff, certainly is there. So I would probably check here.
Right. Yeah, totally agree with everything that you said there. So I checked, and now back to the cutoff player, and he decides to make a 2x jam for around like 5K. So that happens.
Bets 5,000. So and you have 5,000, right? About?
Yeah, I covered both players of the table.
So before we hear what happens, I want to say that if the big blind folds here, right? So let's say that, I don't know, I mean, I do know what's going to happen, but let's just pretend the big blind folds here. I mean, I think you probably have a call. This is such a polarized spot, and I think that with your small sizing, a guy is going to protect at some point. Like if he slow played like 8-7 and he's got the mega nuts, I'm going to tap the table. I would call heads up the way that this went down. For sure. I don't know if that was your plan. Let's say the big blind folds. Are you going to call 5,000 here at the end?
I would have tanked, and yeah, especially against this specific player. Like I don't check that to let him bluff and like fold it. So yeah, definitely would have called.
But that didn't happen, right?
No, that didn't happen.
So what happened?
The big blind instead decides on a call, like after maybe 5-7 seconds.
Not long.
So he had around like $4,400. So pretty much a snap call for a 2x overbet.
Oh my god, you can't call. How can you I mean, it's interesting because you look at this on the surface and you're like, you can't call, and then you delve deep and you're like, oh, what about pot odds? Because it's probably like 14,000, 5,000 the call, right? Because there's 2 calls. Yeah. But are you going to be good here 1 out of 4 times against both players? I just that call from in between. I didn't even think about it. Yeah. I wouldn't even think about it.
I was actually really glad that the other person called at the moment, because then I was like, oh, easy decision now. Like I don't really have to think too long. I don't have to risk the 5K. Like I'm just beat whatever. So I let it go after like maybe 20-30 seconds. It wasn't too long.
And it kind of seems like the big blind should have a very strong hand here. Now you could be you could be up against 2 strong hands. You could also be up against a bluff and a strong hand, but the chances that you beat, this is the whole thing with multi-way responsibility and why you have to play tighter in multi-way spots. It's the same thing here on the river. The chances that you have the best hand here 1 out of 4 times against 2 guys, I wouldn't think that you have the best hand here 1 out of 20 times, to be honest with you. Yeah. Now you might 1 out of 20 times. It still doesn't mean that it's the right, it still doesn't mean that the fold is not right. So what ended up happening? So you folded, right? What were the showdown hands?
Yeah, I fold. Cutoff shows pocket 5s.
Pocket 5s for the bottom end of a straight draw.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
And the big blind player shows us pocket queens. Never saw that one coming.
Pocket queens that so
he double flatted the he
Oh
he double flatted pre out of position against
he called WolfGang's 20, right?
Yeah.
Just called. Then you limp re-raise, and then he just called again.
With all that action in front of him.
God.
Yeah. So
and he called the river.
Yeah. He calls the river the same reasons I call the river.
Oh my God. That's crazy. I can't give credit to the guy. After that pre-flop action, I'm not going to give him credit for what possibly, if you were sort of a deep thinking player, you could think in his spot, which is, if I call this, I think, like, let's say put ourselves in his spot and I'm up against Rampage and the button jams here and I think the button's jamming. If I call with queens, like, you can't overcall with aces or kings, but I can't give him credit for thinking that the way that he played pre-flop, right?
No, yeah. It can't be like a bluff call.
Well, there are certain situations where if you're first to call, the call is so strong that you might drive out a hand behind you that's better, which was basically the case. But one other thing,
in this situation,
one other thing on this too, and I'll put the link to your vlog in this YouTube video. I've been in situations like this before. I wanted to talk about your mental game after the fact, because if people will watch this video, or maybe it was on WolfGang's video. I think in your video, I'll put them on both, but in your video, you talked about it, but I think WolfGang and we're actually going to have WolfGang on a different hand here too from that session for a YouTube video. But I think WolfGang actually captured it where you looked like you were sort of out of it, like you needed to walk it off.
Oh, done. I was KO'd for the night. There was no chance I was playing. But yeah, I walked it off for like a good 10, 15 minutes and recorded some stuff. And his clip was nice to trying to get me to like firsthand, like rationalize and realize what happened and talk it out as like first impressions, like after 10 minutes of just like not knowing what the hell just happened. And yeah, just like distraught. And there's like no way. Like I can't believe
here's the thing. 10K. I mean it's good. Anytime I've been in spots like this before. Anytime you're sort of mentally out of it, it is good to sort of walk away. But it's kind of, for whatever reason, maybe I'm not the greatest gift to poker, but I think I'm pretty good. I've been professional for 15 years. I haven't really struggled with the mental game aspect of it, where it never really bothered me that I really got a bad beat. Sometimes it can be irritating, but it wouldn't necessarily make me play bad and tilt. And it's kind of the same thing too when I don't know if you're even old enough to remember this, back in 2005, I don't remember the guy's name, but he tilted off like all his chips, like at the main event and the final table, when he folded like ace-9 offsuit or something, and it would have like flopped quads. And I'm like, so what? Like, you fold 7 deuce off under the gun too, and if the board comes out 7-7 deuce, you're going to tilt off. I kind of look like if I was in your spot. I don't know how despondent I would have been, because it's the right fold. I've been in spots where it's been close, and I've made some huge folds, especially in a limit game because I play high stakes 08. And I've made some big folds where the board will have trips on it because it's Omaha, and like maybe I fold ace king or ace queen, and I just folded away an $8,000 pot for an extra $150 bet, and I'll have to walk that off. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
But this one, there's just no way. No one can possibly think that you're supposed to call here, right?
Oh, have you read YouTube comments? 100% of the time. What do you mean?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I just I don't see how you're gonna call. I think you played it fine. The only thing that I would say is possibly the turn bet, but it seemed to work out.
It was all
you.
really small.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, but I think the river is definitely a check, and you're gonna check call that guy.
Yeah, and
just got super unlucky that this guy.
Been good.
Yeah.
Yeah, all things considered, like after I walked around for like 15 minutes or so, got back to the table, and of course, the guy that just won the 11K pot, he's out. He's out of there. And then we were all waiting on the other guy to come back, but we waited like 20 minutes. He never came back. So end of the day, I didn't really have to play too much. Because that was the whole reason of playing the 1-2 was for like those big pots. And when the big stacks leave, then what's the point?
Right.
But the game broke shortly after that hand anyways.
Well, cool. We were talking a little bit off the show, and of course, I'm from the Boston area. I haven't seen my parents, since pre-pandemic. I'll probably be going back to Massachusetts maybe in May sometime. So I'm vaccinated. My wife's vaccinated. She's just got her first shot. So you'll see me up there. Maybe I've never been to Boston Billiards, but Chasers, stuff like that. So
yeah, let's mix in a session or something.
All right. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for doing this video thing. Appreciate it.
If you like what you've seen here, please hit the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this call-in hand, hit the like button down below. To check out CrushLivePoker.com, click on the link in the description. Use the code YTA300 to get the first 30 days for free.